Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on PeakD, YouTube, and Twitter.
To send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode, another great guest. We haven't hosted this guy in quite some time. Definitely last season at the most recent. He is the we've recently seen the reemergence of this guy getting re-engaged with Splinterlands. Great to see. He's the resident owner of Splinterlands Hot Takes. Depending on who you are, there are different degrees of hot. But we're a big fan of this guy. Always looking forward to having a proper catch up with this guy. Welcome back to the People's Guild Tales. Thanks for coming to hang out, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I'm actually back in the saddle and modern and swinging away and taking out Bojangles from time to time. So yeah, it's all good.
There's a big asterisk on that one. We don't have to go into that one, Tales, but that's all right.
I said from time to time. That's statistically accurate.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, Tales, you just mentioned you got a couple of things that you are most excited about with Splinterlands. Let's kick the conversation off with that. Let's get things moving in a positive direction and see where the road takes us. Let's start at the top of the list there, man.
Well, I want to say I'm looking forward to some data slamming going down. Just whap, bam, lay that data on the table. That's your jam.
Skip all the mustaches, skip all the bangs and booms.
Well, you just did the mustaches, so we got check. Mustaches, check. All right, bam.
Explosion, check. Explosion,
check. Boom. Now we can do data drop.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like you said, it's been a while since I've been on, the podcast here, and I appreciate the invite to come back and chat with you guys. It's always fun. I mean, for the longest time there, I was not really creating content, was not really saying too much because there really wasn't much to be said. 2024 was a year of new player experience, asterisk, coming soon TM. And, it's, there wasn't really much to talk about really, or content to create, unfortunately. And, I would say that I think, and I'm just giving my personal opinion, but, I think when Dave, took on the role of COO and, joined the team, I think there was, new energy, basically added to the game. And you could see that reflected in the community and Dave's engagement with the community and things changing in the game. Like, it seems like every Tuesday, which today is a Tuesday in the US, we had a patch release in Splinterlands. And it seems every Tuesday or every week, there's new stuff, right? Whether it's, like Splinter vibes being part of your settings now, and you can play that music like a radio in the game or whatever, to survival mode now having the ability to use your cards in other areas of the game to try that out and encourage more participation there. And just, you name it. I mean, every week for the last, it seems, several months, there's been continuous development pushed, which is good because we know the team is, smaller size these days and pretty streamlined, and they have limited bandwidth on what they can deliver, but they still are delivering stuff and moving the ball forward. So from that perspective, that's re-engaged myself, and I'm, certainly playing the game a lot more. In fact, I'm struggling to find the time to play the game these days because there's kind of so much to do between, I don't know, the modern ranked grind, to survival mode, to now frontier mode. There's just a lot going on in the game. I mean, theoretically play for hours quite easily these days, and that's just kind of like the bare minimum almost, it seems. So I'd be curious to see what you guys think. Are you guys re-engaged? Are you guys like seeing a lot of chatter on your Hive posts and your podcast comments?
Jimmy?
I'm kind of re-engaging, but differently. I'm going more heavy into land. I didn't go big into Conclave. Like, I didn't go big into Rebellion when it came out. I slowly got that set basically over time. Waited till after the airdrop and was buying there when prices went down. And then same with the Conclave Arcana. Actually, I had when all the liquidity pool incentives stopped. Basically, Jangles here convinced me to buy Rebellion cards with some of that SPS that was coming back. And I did. I bought all the summoners and a handful of black foils and a bunch of, started buying some rares and stuff. And then kind of stopped. Honestly, it just kind of stopped. It's weird. Went to like play them. I wanted to kind of test out things in practice mode. Never really had much, when you're practicing by yourself, you can't really set parameters. So you're rolling the dice and like, you do 3 or 4 attempts to try a certain thing and you can't. You're like, next. And then same thing with modern. I'd try some here and there and then be like, I'm not getting to really dive in and play with what I want. I would find myself defaulting to, certain plays and certain cards. So I kind of being disengaged from gameplay. I still love the brawls because I play Silver Wild. I have a ton of land and a ton of my old cards on land. And Silver Wild gives me a chance to play a lot of those awesome cards at lower levels that I still have that aren't on land. So I have a lot of fun doing brawls, but I haven't been able to dive into modern, and have been kind of going more and more into land. So it's not like I just stopped. I have been consistently buying land cards this whole time and just slowly beefing up my whole land game, hoping that, kind of pans out the way we're hoping.
I think it is. I mean, I want to hear what B Jangles is engaging with, but I just want to add just a quick tidbit here, Jimmy. I think, they're adding a lot of value to land, whether it's some of the craftable pieces to the game, and supporting different modes. But I think, with this rumored land cards edition, which Cryptomancer is working on rolling out, it seems sooner rather than later, that could be a pretty big game changer. I know they teased like one card, which I think was like a wheat harvester or some card like that, which is like plus 150% production to grain or something, which is crazy. So, when you can start to either craft those and deploy those on land, and I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see. Again, going back to data, I hope someone's working through all the numbers. So whatever changes to land cards or whatever we bring to land, hopefully they're modeling it so it doesn't just create a ton of inflation and there's no sinks. But we'll just cross our fingers. Yes. Hopefully that's the case. But it seems like the net is there's a lot of value being driven to land, which some would argue is problematic because we need to drive value to DEC and SPS and the flywheel too. But it's kind of the challenge of this complex ecosystem that we live in is there's just, so many points of inflation and not a ton of sinks in a lot of cases.
Yeah, the old chicken and egg, more players, then we get the sinks. But what I'm hoping, I love the potions was great. That was a great use of land. The raffle tickets for the pickles and stuff. I think that's another awesome use of land resources. I love seeing stuff like that, and I want to see more of that. I know we're going to be getting more of that. Yeah, I hope it's not just cards. I'm a little worried about the cards just because of what you said, like inflation with like if all of a sudden people are generating tons more resources and we don't have anything to do with them. That's just kind of, ooh, do we want to do that? But if they have, ideas of how to burn those resources and utilize in ways that keep players engaged and excited and want to, spend on resources, then that's good.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-22 because if the land cards are crafted with land resources, but the sole benefit of the cards is to boost the production of those resources, it's kind of a catch-22 because it's like, well, what is the cost versus the benefits? And if the cost is too high, then no one's going to craft them or create them and use those resources. But if the cost is too low, then it's going to lead to runaway inflation every second of every day. So that's why I'm curious to see how they do that, because in theory, you would want the quote costs of that land crafting card type thing to be outside of land in theory, but I don't know. We'll have to see how they're modeling it. I'm curious.
Don't you think that it serves ultimately as a major precedent, right? Because I kind of felt like that was midnight potions, and then sure enough, very quickly down the track we got the raffle tickets and the what is it called, the
Auction
marks,
mark?
the auction marks. Yep. Um,
Mhm.
I would expect, I would hope that land cards is serving as a precedent for. I know the bigger picture goal is the items and spells.
Which was the original vision, which we don't have multiple
Right,
years later,
right.
surprisingly.
Yes, surprisingly, the yeah. So the land cards, man, I really want to see something. We've referenced it a couple of times on the show since the idea initially dropped, but the disposable or consumable like scarecrow card from Aftershock.
Sure.
That feels like such a layup for something that could very easily create a ton of demand. Maybe it's and maybe there's a different one for wild, there's a different one for modern, there's a different one for survival, there's a different one for, depending on what kind of resource, or maybe
Well,
I mean, I feel like there's a whole ton of variability there that would ultimately not take away from the long-term vision of items and spells while still providing that immediate need for consumption until we
yeah.
get to items and spells.
Well, here's the thing that I think the team has to be careful of. And again, I have no visibility to anything that's happening with land or cryptomancer with land cards, but all the things you mentioned, midnight potions, auction marks, raffle tickets, this possible consumable card or possible, revival potion. These are all things that uses land resources to craft, to get aura to craft these things or vouchers, whatever. And it's adding value outside of the land game. If they introduce a craftable land card with land resources, that is something that is totally different from what we're talking about, because now you're taking essentially land resources and instead of redirecting them to utility in other areas outside of land in the game, like modern ranked or survival or card airdrops and stuff like that. Now you're using land resources in a loop within the land game. And that is something that I think from a game design perspective, you have to be careful of to create something that's balanced. Because again, if, and I use Clay's, Clay uses this all the time, the juice has to be worth the squeeze, right? If the cost of to create the card is not worth it, then no one's going to create it. And then if they go air too far on the other side, it becomes a problem in the game economy. So we'll have to see what they do, but it's definitely something that, from a game design perspective, I think they have to be careful with. So,
I mean, I would expect that it's maybe very limited print run, uh, only available for a certain amount of time. I would expect that the expectation is that it gets a lot of the guys um like Matt Clark. He's called it out on 101 more than a few times and fairly recently, if I'm remembering correctly, that he's two Castles Clark, so he's got well in excess of 2K plots. And if the hope is to get a lot of those additional plots up and operational, sure, that might lead to what is hopefully short-term inflation, which can be solved by some of these other things. But overall, it's additional engagement on land, which would hopefully ramp up things like swooping additional cards off the market to fill remaining spots, and just activated plots versus idle plots. Hopefully that ratio starts to get flipped on its head a little bit, and the idle plot percentage overall goes down. I don't know how they're thinking about it, but I mean that's I would certainly be looking at land cards as like short, limited, exclusive print run sort of thing, and let's wait and see. Like how does the
Sure.
data pan out?
Well, also along those same lines, I don't know if you both have listened to, I think it was my most recent video talking about the card burning
Oh yeah.
data
Yeah,
points.
yes, I was listening to your last two videos, and the card burning was one. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that was a good comment that was on that video was taking that concept of card burning, like burning cards to essentially as a sink or to deflate, the card market in general for the availability. But one of the things that came up in the conversation point there that I thought was interesting from the community was the idea that you could use a card burn to essentially over level Chaos Legion cards to provide a increased production points on land. Because right now, and we were talking about this before the stream started, Jimmy, we were talking about the kind of exorbitant cost of, $50 or 50,000 DEC per a maxed out plot of land. And if you have 2,000 plots of land, no matter, even if you just put like small BCXs on there, which isn't very efficient, you're still, that DEC adds up real quick. So right now, the value of staking $50, let's say, at peg value to have one plot of land working versus what that one plot of land can produce with, for example, Chaos Legion cards, the value is not there today in the current market valuations of resources, and whether it's SPS or Aura or whatever resources. So the idea was, well, what if you could help address the Chaos Legion overhang of cards by burning some of those, but giving you the ability to be more efficient on land. So for example, let's say your Pelacor Bandit max regular foil is like 1,000 PP, and maybe you burn like another max version and combine it into like an 800 BCX version or whatever, and it gives you like 1,500 PP or something like that, some type of boost that would be permanent, but it'd be reduced, and it would burn some of those cards, get you more efficient from a DEC perspective. So
Well, that gets down to like the graveyard, like the old that has been floating around for years, the plot graveyard, where you could have a graveyard on a plot where you could burn cards into it. It's permanent for a production boost. Pretty much the same concept.
Yeah. I mean, these are things that hopefully, as the team continues here, hopefully we can, as a community, source some of these ideas, vet them, get proposals, and get them implemented in the game faster than the team would by themselves as a DAO. Because this is our ability as a DAO, is to come up with these game mechanics that universally are just good for the game, good for the economy, just good in general, and then help direct, some of these things to make them happen. Because else, if we do nothing and come up with no good ideas and just sit in our hands and hope the game gets better, well, we could be here for a couple more years and still be left wondering what could have been, right? So that's why like my most recent videos are about ideas to move the game forward and to generate conversation in the community, whether it be card burning sinks, whether it be reward sharing. I really want to talk about that BTC USDC video. Yeah. Because I think that's a huge, I mean, we talk about one of the three things I'm most excited about. I mean, that would be number one, honestly. the potential for us to really do something innovative within Web3 and be an example for all other projects to follow if we were able to do it successfully. But that's another discussion. But at the end of the day,
want to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
And your cardboard idea was Rogue Patent, right? You said that was like a Rogue Patent Mondroid idea on their stream?
I think so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are all, our community is super smart. Like,
oh, yeah, there's tons of great ideas get floated all the time. It's just the ability to implement and what gets priority. And it seems like so many great ideas have just come and gone like a fart in the wind.
Yeah.
That's a phrase I've not heard in quite some time. I'm glad you brought that one back, Jimmy. I don't know where that
came from. That was kind of
I was choked on my coffee when you said that.
I don't think I've ever said that before in my life, honestly. So, yeah.
Oh, boy. Well, okay. So before we get too far beyond your initial question, Tails, like where are we respectively engaging, and like what's ticking boxes for us individually at the moment? Frontier format I'm finding it a lot of fun. The social element is cool. Seeing, I've run into Gathering, I've run into Bulldog, I've run into all 25 of Jeff Opens Cards accounts, and each time there's shit talk. So there's been a lot of shit talk between Jangles and Jeff in the last week. And I think, it represents something. I was a huge proponent for this whole idea, and I think the initial rollout is exactly what I was hoping for. I would like to see probably card size or deck size doubled. I think there's because the number of cards, there isn't a whole lot of room for. I think there's two ways to go about it because of the current volume of rule sets that we've got available and the limited number of cards that are available in Frontier format. There's a great likelihood of running into mirror matches. So vary up the rule sets and or drop some additional card availability in there to allow for strategy to really take over. I'm starting to run into accounts that have had they've very clearly gone to the market and leveled up their cards. And, if we're playing a matchup with, 2 or 3 elements that are available, I'm sure that we're thinking very similarly. There's just not enough depth of strategy in the available card pool to, outwit an overmatched opponent.
I think we'll get there. Chapter 2 of the campaign's coming at some point, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just early takeaway. Generally, it's a lot of fun. I was as high as, I think, 10th place on the leaderboard the other day. I've since fallen down, but
you earning cards?
Flex there.
Yes. It was a few days ago, Tails. Let me take a look where I'm at now. 54th.
Nice.
Which is not.
And you're earning cards, leveling up.
Earning cards, leveling up. Yeah, I did go to the market the market is a really fascinating thing to watch with this, because there's this, I guess there is the only value that is coming out of Frontier mode is the cards themselves. Foundation packs are going for $4 a piece on the non-card market, which is pretty incredible.
Whoa, that is incredible.
Yeah. So I mean, there's no SPS tied to it. There's no DEC tied to it. There's no burn value. These cards don't get you anything on land. They're not playable in survival mode. So their core functionality is clearly Frontier mode.
But here's the meta. Here's what I would say, Bjango, is the meta is people, I think, are trying to get a head start now because there's, I guess, rumors or indications that the higher you go or the higher up you are, the more tickets or chances you'll get to get some of these black foils and gold foil arcanes and other things that are going to raffle off 76 a day with. And if there's only let's say a couple hundred people playing the mode, if you're at the top getting the most tickets, chance of you getting something good there is pretty decent. And because these card prices are generally speaking fairly low, to get a max set, you're not talking about a lot of investment when you're playing the game and just leveling up stuff. So the potential return versus investing early could be significant. So I think people are taking a speculative risk there. But to your point, there is no extra real value other than the cards and these potential variants they could win in the future. So
Yeah, it's purely collectability, right? Which is, I know a big thing on Dave and Blaze's radar, which was the intent behind things like the black and gold arcanes. But we've just got everything isolated here, and there's no additional utility tied to these cards. So it's a fun experiment. I think it is a step in the right direction. I've been really enjoying it. I would like to see some improvements there. And back to a comment that you made a little bit earlier about Dave, coming on board and breathing fresh life into not just the community, but I mean the level of output that we have seen get turned up on the team. Like they've cranked it to 11 the last couple of months. I was updating. I've got a Splinterlands, a brief history timeline, and just looking back the last 3 months since really Dave's come on and sunk his teeth into to all things Splinterlands from from the internal perspective between Conclave, campaign mode launching, foundation cards, frontier format. These are all this is the new player experience stuff that we were waiting for and hoping for last year. And then Splinter Vibes is a nice little cherry on top.
I was just going to add, I mean, that type of leadership is contagious. So, like, I mean, you lead by example, and I can't speak for the team, obviously, but I can just tell from a community's perspective. Like, I've been on, streams with Dave at past 1 a.m. local time. I've seen him respond to X posts at ungodly times of the night. I've been on, calls with him on the weekend and stuff. I mean, and I'm just, a nobody, right? So, I mean, the guy is present. Like, he is all in when it comes to Splinterlands. And I think, I mean, that's got to have an effect on the productivity that we're seeing from the team perspective, I would have to think, because, if he's in the trenches at those times and doing this kind of work, I'm sure others are probably saying, well, we're here too. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, for a long time, when Dave first came on, it was turning hope into confidence, and that speaks to not just community sentiment, but I think also to the degree of the team's conviction. Like, hey, this in Q2, Q3, we got a set to launch. We've got reward card set to redo. We've got all of the airdrop cards to knock out, in addition to frontier format and a tournament rework, and you just go down the list, and it's like, God, how are we ever going to get through all that stuff? Well, that's the question that starts turning that hope into confidence from an output perspective. And yeah, it's really a sea change of internal culture, and I'm here for it, man. I'm with you. I think you can feel in the community that there is a sense of reinvigoration, and folks are tuning back in and showing up and having real conversations, because it feels like the team is listening. Like, like you called out, Dave is that guy. Who was it that they called Dave a vampire the other day? You're probably, what was that, you, Jimmy?
Maybe. Yeah, yeah, totally. I think it was.
I mean,
I've called him a bot before. I did say he was a vampire the other day too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just absolutely tireless, man. Yes. Yeah. He's absolutely tireless. And it is contagious, to your point, Tails. I completely agree.
So besides Frontier Mode, what else has got you playing the game or involved in the game or the community?
Honestly, not a whole lot, man. I've just been summertime is historically a super busy time in education in this part of the world, and it's just been absolutely swamped. So I've kind of had to pick and choose where I'm participating. I think the last 2.5 seasons have probably been my my lowest contributing in terms of match liquidity on ranked. I haven't been able to just have the time to buy energy. I've had to push pause on tournaments, and I actually missed a brawl for only the second time ever. I missed signing up for it. I didn't get my
Okay, that's not the end of the world.
yeah, but
That's not the cardinal sin.
yeah.
That's bad, but it's not that bad.
Yeah, it could have been worse. Sure. So yeah, I mean that sort of stuff. We're working on the crypto gaming recovery fund, which you called out leading things by example in the Web3 space. I think along with incorporating Bitcoin into some aspect of what Splinterlands is doing, I think the recovery fund could be there, right in stride in terms of garnering that very valid attention and positive attention. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just a million things going on, both personally, professionally, and within Splinterlands, and yeah. So frontier mode and ranked has been the primary bread and butter, but at a minimum, yeah.
Well, I did have some comments that we can maybe chat about with frontier mode that I'd be curious to get your guys' opinions on as well. But so my personal opinion on frontier mode is mixed. I will say that over the last few days, it's where I've been spending the most time in the game is in frontier mode. But I will say my experience the first couple days was pretty rough. With the mirror matches, with the RNG, with just all this level 1 cards and stuff like that. So I'll just be honest. My first 2 or 3 days in frontier mode, I did not enjoy it. But what changed for me is when I was able to level my summoners and get to a point where it just wasn't, basically just level 1, no ability cards banging against each other in a melee only match. It was actually, I could start using some more strategy and, having a little bit more fun with the game. And then it got to a point where it's like, okay, well, I need to get this leveled. I need to get these, I need to get to this level to get these extra chests or extra draws. So then there was something to work towards. There was some progression at that point, but getting that progression system to kick in was a little alarming for me because I thought, well, as a veteran Splinterlands player with kind of a stake in the game, I kind of have to try this and try and make it work. And now it's working. Now that I've got level 2 summoners access and stuff like that, and I have some cards at level 2. But prior to that, it was bad. And my fear was, as a new player, my first experience with the game, if I lost 15 games in a row in frontier mode, no joke. And I don't think I've ever done that anywhere in the game, in any type of ranked setting. And I was like, what is happening? And I was streaming too. And I was like, this is pretty horrid. I don't really find this exciting or fun. And I'm like, if I was a new player, I would have already uninstalled or deleted this from my history and my web pages because I'd never want to come back, really, because it was pretty awful. So I guess if I had feedback around what they do for new players, I really think a hidden gem for our game. So frontier mode is definitely good. Campaign mode plus frontier mode plus the ability to earn, that's good. But I think they also need to provide some guided help for new players into the game that might want to get a spell book or might want to use more advanced kind of abilities and mana levels. Is we have a great secret in the game, which is essentially what I think you've called kitchen table game mode, Jimmy, which is practice mode, which is available to everyone with ghost cards, with the highest levels of abilities in the game. And you don't need to queue up and find someone to play against, right? You just go into practice mode, you select the highest level of the game, you say go, and you just select your difficulty level and a bot will play against you. And for me, as a new player, I would be much, much more as a like TCG player in general. I would be much more interested in that level of gameplay, even though I'm not earning rewards because of the challenge and the complexity. And I think if we can combine the narrative or the UI or the tooltips to say, hey, here's frontier mode, and this is one kind of like way you can earn and build your way in the game with real assets. But we also suggest you check out this practice mode where you can play the highest level cards, kick them around for a bit and see how you like it, play with these abilities and these advanced rule sets, and see really what our game is about, the complexity and the swings of the battle and stuff like that. Because, if you want to impress someone, and when I was on my stream, I was kind of using the analogy, like if I'm like let's say a new driver, right? And I want to impress upon a new driver that, hey, driving is fun, right? I'm not going to give him like a Ford Escort or something that's like from like 1980 and say, hey, take this for a spin and see how you like it, right? If you give them like an M5 or something and say, take this on the track for a spin and tell me if you like driving, they're going to say, yeah, right. They might kill themselves if they're not careful, but yeah, they're going to enjoy driving a lot more, driving with something that's exciting, right? Versus something that's really like, none of us would ever like say play in novice level because it's fun. Your first part of Splinterlands is to get out of novice as quickly as possible, right? So anyways, that's my...
No, I think you're right there. I think steering people towards practice mode, I would love to see practice mode get like an upgrade and overhaul. Because again, I've gone to do it to try certain cards that I just get, and I just don't get the chance to do it. Something happens where you always get shit RNG when you're trying to try out a new card with
like
rule
back to
sets and mana
basics.
caps. Oh, dude, that's the best. I would love to try all the new cards and back to basics first and foremost. I'm kidding, of course. But yeah, you just he goes, yeah, I just got this fire summoner. Let me go try it. Let me try it out. Let me try this giraffe cave wise way finder. Right?
Cave
What's
finder
a
finder.
Wayfarer, Ferner. We go to try. I'm like, let me try this combo. Bam, just got my giraffe leveled up, and then I don't get fire for like 6 matches, and then you get him, and then the mana cap's off. And I just want to see practice mode, something you can actually tweak and actually practice. And it should be easy because we have that with challenges. We have the customizable challenges now. And then I think we should yes, definitely. That would be a great thing to steer new players towards. Say, hey, check out this other version of the game, and you could play it at any level here for free. Try it out.
Yeah.
Because I had the same thing. Like I started trying Frontier mode. I have been insanely busy over the past few weeks, so it's kind of been I haven't been putting as much time as I typically do into the Splinterlands. But I did a handful of battles and stuff, and it was kind of like you said. I was just like, there's not many cards to choose from. They're not really good cards. I mean, I know they were designed to be bad cards, but they're really bad at level 1. Like they're all super high mana, and there's really not much you get to do. It's like, all right, you got like a handful of cards, and here's where they're going. All right, play. And it just kind of lost me at the beginning. And again, I didn't push. Like it sounds like once you push, yes, you get into that level where you start leveling up, and the motivation to do more gets there. But as you said, that right out of the gates, that motivation isn't there.
Yeah, the progression is too slow, I think, to start with.
Yeah.
And there's not like, as a new player, like you're only going to get like, maybe like 3 or 5 games before you lose someone. Like if they lose, like I know what I'm doing in Splinterlands. Like, I mean, B-Jangles would maybe beg to differ, but I actually do know what I'm doing when it comes to battling in Splinterlands. And I was losing more than I was winning in Frontier mode, which is frustrating, right? Because I can only imagine what a new player never playing the game, not using optimal strategies and placements and knowing all the abilities of the cards and stuff, what kind of experience they're having. Like I was saying, like I'd be probably winning more games if I was just taking a dartboard and choosing my team in positions with a dartboard. Because
is there a way to put like to know if an account is brand new or they're just starting this, and give them like super easy bots for like 10 battles or something, just enough to basically,
it should just
scale.
It's a free to play mode. It should be that, like, if you lose 2 in a row, you should get a layup in round 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
whether you're new or not. Because I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about with campaign mode with that stupid ogre that's got like 50 health, and you're banking on god tier RNG to, I think all three of us probably put very similar lineups in, and we all three had different degrees of success because of RNG. Like, what is the purpose of that lesson? Well, it's to demonstrate the power of dodge and RNG. Sure, great. You could do that with the monster on the other side having 25% of that health. So it needs to lend itself to, what are you trying to accomplish with this stuff? And I agree. It should be a Ferrari out of the gate. Like you should be like, whoa, this is amazing. I'm blown away. I want more.
Yeah, I'm
It
winning
shouldn't
games, I'm
be,
winning cards, I'm winning
yes,
packs.
yeah,
Give me more. I want to play more.
yeah.
You're not getting that with the current level of progression. I think they can tune that. I think they can make it so that a new player coming to the game feels that like a mobile game. Like a mobile game will have you playing for hours if it's a good one when you first start playing it, because they know once you get invested and you build stuff up after a couple hours and you do those loops and stuff, you're going to come back and log in the next day and try some more. And I don't think we've got that level of replayability in the current mode. So
What about getting players to level 2 really fast somehow? Whether that's like bonus packs, frontier packs right out of the gates. Like literally, here's enough packs to get you to level 2. Have fun opening them, and averages say you're going to have like a level 2 deck. Once you start that, just to get some variety in there, because that
yeah, I
level
think it's
1 is
interesting.
brutal, freaking brutal, man. Those cards are, whoo. The mana
It,
is so high and they do so little. I'm still trying to figure out what those untrainable no attack cards are for.
RNG. That's how you beat the troll, man.
A situation you never see in the real game.
Yeah.
This giant troll with a
I
thousand
mean,
hit
okay,
points.
so here's an idea, and this is something, you I suggested, like doubling the card pool and getting more rule sets. I think the rule sets and the mana cap fluctuation stuff, that should be in place across the board as of a year ago. Like we should not be complaining about that. But here's an idea, and Jimmy, I think I may have mentioned to you last week. On a season by season basis, I would love to see Frontier mode have kind of a theme. So maybe we're demonstrating the value of phase.
Yeah.
Let's bring in 6 or 7 or 8 ghost cards from the real game for players to play with in Frontier mode. They're all different splinters, they're all different rarities, so you'd be, of course your card pool availability would be subject to whatever the battle parameters were, uh, and
Mhm.
feature these cards on a rotating slate, and coordinate these cards, like the curate these card selection that are coming in the form of ghost cards to coincide and bring out the power of the theme for that particular season. That's how
Love
we're,
it.
that's the Ferrari. Like you're getting a little taste of the Ferrari every single time you're maybe it dips into wild cards. Uh, Imagine getting a taste of Oceanus in something like this. Like, oh man, Oceanus is, he's the Rolls Royce in Frontier mode. Uh, so I think there's very easy ways to really lean into Frontier mode, and back to the idea
Yeah.
of that quick progression. Maybe there's a protected, like, uh, general progression. I think, as far as I see it, is you start in campaign mode, you finish your chapter 1, blah blah blah, and then you move into Frontier mode. I think there should be a gap in there where you're playing like a protected Frontier mode, where you're rewarded with, by the time you finish it, or maybe this happens in campaign mode, but you need to have probably closer to a complete set of cards, and maybe 1 or 2 level 2s by the time you enter Frontier mode would be kind of what that ideal experience is. And maybe you're picking, maybe this leans into the avatar thing. So like as part of your campaign, you're designing an avatar. Depending on which avatar you choose, you're kind of aligning with an element, and then that will help dictate which cards you're pulling. Um, I think there's a few ways to kind of achieve what you guys are both alluding to. But that, yeah, just off the cuff, I feel like that would be one of the ways to kind of protect and coach a little bit before you're released into campaign mode where you're subject to,
Yeah.
probably a proper hiding right away.
Well, and I think we can get there. I mean, this is obviously it's like the alpha launch of frontier mode that we're experiencing. So there's still time to tune it before, the masses start arriving at the gates here, right? So, we can hopefully make some changes and get some of these things in place that make it a better experience so that that conversion rate and that stickiness. Because if you go to Peak Monsters dashboard and you look at the new user signups for spell books, we're still, last time I checked, it wasn't a very high conversion rate or high stickiness for people converting over to spell books. So, until that starts to change, that just means there's still work to be done. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everything mentioned here was great. I loved the idea, Jangles, of bringing in ghost cards, like make it educational as well. Like you said, hey, we're going to focus on magic and phase and some cool abilities, and it doesn't have to be just cards out of modern. Bring them out of everywhere. Literally, like give people a taste of the depth of the game and say, here's a bunch of magic cards from going back to beta, alpha, whatever. Throw them in there, and ghost cards for a season, and let people really dive in, start to explore the depth and do it while they're getting educated about it too. They have fun and they're learning about the game. And it's ghost cards. There's no SPS being earned. There's no harm in any of this. There's just positive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of, I think you did a little Freudian slip there, Jimmy, because when we talk about death, because B Jangles must have bribed someone at Splinterlands, because death is a force in Conclave Arcana in the New Modern, and it is a powerhouse in Frontier mode as well. So all those people complaining about Papa Dalin and Waka, man, tides have turned for death.
Well,
Dallin's
I don't know if you guys remember, but I never squealed an ounce of complaint against Grandfather Dallin.
Papa D.
Papa D. I think there's a lot of
Tenacious D. He's the tenacious summoner. I just made that connection. Tenacious D, the Dallin.
nice.
Bam. Bam.
But yeah, that was I did go to the card market and purchase a handful of cards on the Foundation front, and Death, little sister, she's nasty. She's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dive in again and really, when I have some time, dive in and really try to play it again. But again, just after that first few things, it was just like, eh. So yeah, and I think that's great criticism. Here's it from me. There's from Tales who have tried it. Like, that is so vital. Those first handful of games that's the most important for a new player, man. We should not be experiencing what we just did. And I wrote it off to saying, oh, I played a lot of Splinterlands, so these cards are just not fun and because of that or whatever. But hearing you lost like 15 matches in a row, like that can't happen. That can't happen. You're going to push players away. We have to address that issue sooner rather than later. And because Frontier mode surviving, and not only surviving but thriving and being successful it's our do or die moment right now. This has to work. And I think it's set up well. I think it can definitely work. We just have to tweak it. Again, it just came out, so we definitely have to do some tweaking there. But I'm definitely very positive about it. We just have to be on it. Like, we have to not get stuck in the crap we've dealt with for years, where it's like, all right,
Release it and nothing changes.
And nothing changes. Yeah. That I'm still pissed about the leagues going away and nothing. Yeah, we're going to watch and we're going to tweak, and then never, ever happen. It just got brushed under the rug. We can't do that right now. And I know
It's
It's
Dave
funny. It's funny you
places,
bring that up,
it's not
Jimmy.
going
I
to
don't.
happen. Yeah.
There was a
What's
little.
that?
The league's going away. There was a little
Yeah,
proposal that kind
that
of
just
snuck
came.
in
That
there
wasn't
today.
me. That wasn't me proposing that. Someone else threw that proposal in there. Bring
well,
back leagues.
we definitely need to link in the for if you post this on YouTube, obviously, put the video description of the link of that article, because that has some great content there that I think the community needs to read and see when it comes to survival mode. When we talk about changing modes and innovating and iterating and doing it in fast order, I definitely, would say promote that and add that to the comments to the podcast. And by the way, as I mentioned to you as well, Beach Angles, the images for that article were very high quality as well. So kudos, well done.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Midjourney, man. I'm just using the tool that I've got access to. Midjourney does put out some pretty awesome stuff, but let's segue into the survival stuff and the leagues conversation, and then we'll get back to your list of top things you're excited for, Tails.
Yeah. Back to speed again. Get quick changes, that we rolled out both seasons and seasons of no changes, and it was kind of brutal for survival. SPS
Yeah,
faucet.
we're fast approaching the end of the line for survival. It's kind of make or break at this point, which, if we went, I think when we had AZ on a few episodes ago, I think all three of us unanimously declared that we would definitely not vote for this current iteration to continue as is. Like, why would the DAO fund? I don't think we've seen the specifics, but it's an absurd amount of the overall pool that is being allocated to the very top end, and it's very, no matter how you dice it, it's very clearly a whale game. I would honestly be surprised if any of the whales that are directly benefiting from survival would say that this is a healthy, sustainable model either. I would be shocked. So enter the suggestion for brackets for anybody who's curious. There is a Peak D article kind of putting forth this idea. It's not my idea, but it is one that I ran with and wanted to put out there for, kind of let's call it pre-proposal phase. Just trying to get overall sentiment, see where folks are, just get a sense for where everybody's thinking about this sort of stuff. Is this something that they would be remotely interested in supporting? As I definitely put this out there as an iterative test process. There's been some comments that seem to overlook that big caveat and think that I'm putting out, a proposal as this being the long term. But yeah, I did put out, a truncated reward pool of less than 1 million SPS for 3 months as part of that. And the whole purpose is really experimentation. I think it's a great concept. Yeah, go ahead, Jimmy.
I'll keep going. I think we're at a point where if they want to experiment with it now, they blew. I think it was irresponsible delegation of rewards very quickly. Just blast out. Here's all these rewards. Here you go. I would hope that these people who have gotten a ton of SPS from this mode would be willing to experiment without rewards. Like if we say, hey, here it is on the server, whatever, even if it's map server, whatever, let's experiment with a different, because it just seems like everything's so rushed and we're just crammed and trying to be like, here, how do we fix it? How do we fix it and get this out? And then we're not changing it fast enough. We're not experimenting it enough. I don't know. You'd hope the people who got a ton of SPS from it would be willing to put the time in to explore it without being rewarded in order to get a new mode that is successful.
Well, I think the challenge is because the mode, the reality of the mode is it's botted, and it's botted by services, primarily public services in many cases.
Why do we need a mode like that?
That's a separate conversation.
I'm like, I don't even want that to be a mode.
Well, it's a separate conversation. But the proposal actually that Beach Angle kind of helped outline and illustrate has non-botted leagues or brackets, basically.
Yes,
But
I saw that.
if you don't have rewards, basically what happens is the bot services aren't going to provide the compute to run botted simulations and battles in a mode with no rewards, where they don't get a take to make up their compute costs. So that would be a problem. And then you lose liquidity, not only from the bot services, but you lose liquidity from probably players as well, because they wouldn't be incented to spend the time to manually play that mode at that point. So basically the experiment would come to a crashing halt, because there'd be no one playing it and it would just die, unfortunately. So
That's true. That's true. Yeah. No, it's very true. And it makes me ask, why would we spend all this time and money and resources on a mode that is just intended to not be a game, but to be botted?
Well,
you want new players playing a new mode, basically.
Yeah, and
that's what
I've gone on record, saying my concerns with the botted nature of survival mode, and that's we don't need to rehash that argument. I think I've talked about that a great bit. But with the proposal for brackets, what it allows, and again, I encourage everyone to read it, and because I think it's really innovative and a solution to saving this mode, because we have this mode whether we like it or not. It's here, it's been developed, and whether it continues is kind of a decision point for the DAO and the community. And whether we like the mode or not, significant investment has been made at this point from a resource and time perspective. So if we just write it off, well, that would be unfortunate. So I think we have to, make lemonade out of lemons in some cases for some of us. But one of the brackets, the ideas of the brackets are to introduce league locking, where you can select basically what league or bracket you want to play in for a season, which gives you the control as a player to say, hey, this is how I want to play this game, and these are the rewards I want to be competing for. And one of those is manual only mode. Yeah, you have the manual only mode where you can play like a modern wild, or a manual modern or a manual wild type of format at different levels of card ownership or summoner abilities and card levels. So
and that's key, because that's how we get it to be appealing to lower level players. That's how you get people who want to play bronze and silver and be like, I'm going to give this a shot because the rewards are good and the stakes are good, and there's an excitement that does come from your cards getting knocked out and being dead and on cooldown for a while. That is a really cool concept. And making it a fun thing, an engaging thing for lower level players is vital, and the brackets does that. I had a question with the brackets. Was the when it says no bots, I'm assuming that means on the player end we'd still have liquidity bots in those leagues?
Yes, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
So bot services is in reference to you, the player. Are you able to turn on XBot or Archmage?
Gotcha.
Minimum Archon level is in reference to both player, you, the player, and the opponent, whether that's a liquidity bot or another player. And then liquidity bot, I should say Archon cap. That's obviously in reference to the liquidity bot.
Summoner caps back in action. Bam. I said the Archon doesn't compute. Like when you say it, I'm just like, what? What's he talking about? It's just one of those things.
And to make it even more confusing, and I'm just realizing this, I used Summoner and Archon in the same table.
Yeah, because that's just what we're used to.
Yeah.
At this point, yeah.
I mean, another caveat there that, to go along with allowing folks to choose their lane in which they compete, the mechanics that are tied from a cooldown perspective support that. So the general idea is that whether you play at novice or you play at champ, your cooldowns should allow for you to play that deck of cards multiple times in a season.
Yeah.
Whereas the current iteration, if you play a silver deck in survival,
you're done. You play it once and it's done.
You play
for the whole
once.
Season.
Yeah, it's not even worth it.
And you're screwed. It's not fun. It's like, what's the point? Yeah, I'm looking at my bot running in survival now. It doesn't even use. It's on another account. It's not on my Fat Jimmy account, but I have another account running bots with excess cards, and it doesn't even touch the low level cards. Like it might get to summoners there, but like I'm looking at what's on cooldown, it doesn't even get to anything in like Silver League. It doesn't even touch them.
Yeah, and this is what's nice about the bracket proposal is it's there to essentially open up the gameplay for all players, whether you play at champion, whether you play at bronze, whether you play at silver, gold, whatever level you play at, whatever level of collection you have, you can actually play this mode and actually get benefits from playing it. So I think that's that inclusivity through brackets, which seems, you know, like I guess counterintuitive, is actually really what it builds in is the ability for everyone, along with the cooldowns not affecting ranked play that was just introduced today in the patch, basically allows everyone to play in the mode and participate versus what has traditionally been a mode that's been very exclusive and very alienating to majority of the community.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very hopeful that this thing gets traction. I mean, at this point, it kind of feels like it might be a little late to not experience a little bit of a gap in survival's operation, meaning, I don't think there was overwhelming feedback enough one way or the other to say, is this iteration of brackets the right way forward? Is survival mode doomed? So I think we probably need to go back to the drawing board a little bit, and I'm actually going to edit the post a little bit later today to toss in a couple of edit asterisks. I need to adjust that table as well. But interestingly and completely unrelated, at least from me putting this out, there was a proposal, the first proposal we've had from the community in quite some time, asking for the return of leagues to ranked. I'm frankly a little surprised it took this long. Here we are. It's probably 18-ish months since we removed the leagues. We saw a lot of players walk out the door. A lot of folks raised their hands and said, no leagues means no Splinterlands for me. Yeah, here we are. We've got the proposal on the board. What is y'all's kind of gut reaction with seeing this kind of finally make its way to the pre-proposal stage?
I honestly haven't seen the proposal yet. I haven't read it, so I really don't have any specific comments other than I would echo your comment that it's probably long overdue given the community sentiment and kind of general feeling around leagues. I would say if it could be implemented in a thoughtful way, similar to like what's been proposed as an option for survival mode, I would be supportive of that. Again, giving people the ability to play the game and be more welcoming to folks, not just saying, hey, if you want to play the game, you have to level your cards to max level and anything else is not wanted or not welcome here. I think that's not a good game design. I think
that was a disaster. I mean, call it what it was. That was a disaster.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to always have the want to progress your collection to the highest level it can be. But let's just be honest. I mean, a lot of people don't have the time or the funds or, to necessarily get the champion. And while it should be the ultimate maybe goal for the most competitive among the player base, it shouldn't be the standard that we hold every player to. So if you want to compete at silver, you want to compete at gold because that's where your time or your skill or your recreational funds allow you to play at, then the game should provide a way for you to do that and do that in a fun fashion. Because we shouldn't say that you're only a valued member of our community if you play at max level. That's just not a good way of thinking in my mind.
Oh, it's an impossible
and it also
product
allows
to sell.
and it also allows for just like manipulation where if some guy wants to be bronze, because I think you could still have like bronze leaderboards now, right? And they have are the leaderboards back? Like
Leaderboards exist.
Stuff like that. Yeah, so some guy could be like, oh, I'm just going to buy a ringer card or two and just be on the top of bronze all the time because I have a max, summoner and like a legendary that just crushes everybody. It does completely eliminate like quote fair gameplay in that regard. But yeah, no, my fear about this. So the proposal is basically very simple. It says bring back leagues. Here's why. A lot of people left, and a lot of people want them. It's very cut and dry. But my fear is that it doesn't. It kind of says bring back leagues as they were. It doesn't say that, but it kind of says that, and that is where my fear of failing comes in because it did need some tweaking and it did need some adjusting. And if it happens to fail just because there's no changes laid out, then the excuse will be, "Oh, it failed. Sorry, bro. We're not gonna bring back leagues. Community doesn't want them." So I'm really glad to see the proposal because I know people want it, but the way it was presented is a little dangerous, I think.
It's kind of like my first thought. I had the same idea, Jimmy, and I read your comment in the post. My first thought was actually immediately thinking of the poll that we put out, whatever it was,
right.
9 months ago, where the implication was,
yeah.
Do you want to restore leagues? And the implication 100% was as they were, not with adjustments, not with the protections, not with, any of the stuff that we've, very clearly and for a long time identified as the core of the root issue of why leagues didn't work.
Just tweak it a little. We just needed a few tweaks.
Yeah.
But then, that's why the proposal failed and all these people said it. They were very transparent. They're like, I'm voting no because we don't need leagues how they were. It's like, that's not.
Azarcon is actually a great example because he voted up for this proposal, but I remember distinctly that he did not want leagues to be reinstated as they were, and I don't think any of us do. But leagues in some form or fashion, I think, is 100% the right way to go. Like Jimmy, you've called it out a million times. It's a feature, not a bug, that we've got the levels. And
one of the most brilliant aspects of the game.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
Freaking amazing. Yeah.
The game, it's a completely different game at each respective level. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, what's the purpose of selling cards that you have to sink 400 BCX into? Just sell one BCX at the high price. You know what I mean? Like, what's the purpose of levels 1 through 9 if the only way to play is at level 10?
Well, the purpose was having leagues.
Ding ding, bingo.
Ding ding ding, bam. So, yeah, it's good to see that there's community interest. And I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't do more damage than good at this point. But we'll see. We'll see. Because again, I'd hate to see it fail, and then the excuse be we can't bring it back as we were, and then look, the community doesn't want leagues back, so we're moving on. So Bitcoin in Splinterlands.
Let's go there.
I've heard Bitcoin is doing pretty well, generally speaking, and people like Bitcoin and crypto. So
people like Bitcoin. That's right. It's no longer a scam anymore. I mean, geez, it's my wife today was looking at sales metric or things, ways to sell, and Squarespace came up, and she's looking through Squarespace. She's like, holy crap, you can have a setting in Squarespace where you convert your a sale to Bitcoin immediately and automatically. I'm like, man, that's the mass adoption happening in real time that we've been, talking about for years. We're like, it's coming. And yep, it's coming.
Yeah, I mean, and I think when we talked about earlier in the show, we talked about specifically, Splinterlands innovating and leading in the space, because let's face it, there's a lot of projects that are struggling and flailing out there, and there's really no Web3 game that's done something in this cycle that we're currently in. And I say this cycle, I mean something like between 2024 and now, where Bitcoin has gone on this run from like 50K to 118 or whatever. There's really been no Web3 project that has made mainstream news from a gaming perspective to say this is exciting, this is different, this is something you should pay attention to. And I think we have the ability with the rails and the foundation that Splinterlands has built. And these are good bones and foundations that the game is built upon, right? We have the ability, I think, to reframe the conversation of what a successful Web3 project looks like and be that innovator. And we have the ability to do it today, like literally with a DAO proposal. We could switch the story, switch the narrative, and really organically market the game and our assets here. And what I'm talking about is, and if you watch my video on YouTube, I won't go into all the details here in the stream because it would take another 10 minutes or so. But basically the concept is the ability to reward share. Basically the DAO's percentage of the pack sales for Conclave Arcana moving forward, and reallocate that 50% revenue share that the team is sharing with the DAO, and redistribute those earnings on future pack sales of Conclave Arcana into rewards. And those rewards would be in the form of, take your pick, it could be BTC or it could be USDC. But what it does is it shows the conviction of the project and the DAO to say, hey, we want more players, more ears, more eyes on our project, and we're going to give back 100% of the earnings that the DAO, the community, receives from Conclave Arcana pack sales and give it to the players. And that, if you just think about what I just said there, it's unheard of in Web3. All you hear about in Web3 are VCs and projects and teams doing a TGE, a token generation event, and dumping on the holders and the asset owners in the project. And that's why every TGE or token generation event that's happened in 2024 and 25 is a straight candle going down, because all the players that have assets in the game are just exit liquidity for the early investors. And there's no value, there's no benefit to being actually a player in a Web3 or play and earn gaming system, because you're just going to get dumped on and dunked on. Now, if Splinterlands can say, look, we understand that the value of a project is in its community and its players, and if we can fund the Splinterlands development team to give them the resources they need to continue making changes to the game and adding developers to staff and increasing the speed of production, at the same time, we can do our part as a DAO and share our earnings from pack sales for the current mode in a virtuous cycle. And we'll talk about the flywheel effect and what that means in just a second, because it's a different type of flywheel. But if you basically fund, in addition to the current SPS reward pools for Modern Rank, for example, with BTC, and basically you take those Conclave Arcana sales, so whether you sell a starter pack today or an alchemy pack or legendary pack or a standard pack, 50% of that pack sale goes to the DAO today, and we just bank it in DEC in the DAO and it gets locked up there and it's not being used for anything. Essentially, it's just stored there. But if we could turn that around and say, look, you come to the game and you buy cards to play in Modern Ranked and earn SPS rewards, well, we're going to give you, depending on how competitive you are in that mode, we're going to give you 100% of those revenues back to the players who compete in that mode. It creates a virtuous cycle where people buy packs to earn BTC or USDC rewards in addition to SPS rewards in those modes. And it's virtuous because what funds those reward pools of BTC, for example, I'll just use that as a generic example. That's the reward that would pay out in this case. What funds those reward pools for the players is people buying packs to play in that mode and to then earn those rewards. So it creates a cycle where there's no creation of value out of nowhere, right? It's basically the only way the reward pool gets filled is by people wanting to compete and earn those rewards and buy the assets that actually earn those rewards. And that type of concept, I think, could be a real game changer for Splinterlands to lead with. No other project is doing that, because all other projects are out there. They're all thinking about, hey, how do we make money off of the players? Not how do the players, basically share the rewards of playing and spending their time in the game and then adding value to the assets. And when you get players in here just competing and going for those rewards because they're attractive, well, now you get people that stay and stick around to do things like and have those fancy avatars with all kinds of bling and fanciness. And they start buying land and start getting involved in land, and they start playing, and looking at cosmetics or other Web 2 aspects of the game. They stick around for that because at some point the lore becomes meaningful, the Splinter vibes become meaningful, and it's about the community that they're playing the game with that becomes something they want to stick around for and participate in. That type of stickiness starts with the rewards but doesn't end with the rewards, and that's how you build a player base. That's how you build an economy that actually has a flywheel effect, that adds players, that adds asset value. And we just really, when you come to think of it, if Splinterlands did nothing but stay on the course that it's on right now and just adds a new expansion set, after Conclave Arcana, and adds land cards or whatever for the 5% that play lands, that adds nothing to our game, to our asset value, to our community. Something like revenue sharing of BTC rewards is going to immediately change the narrative. Is going to be headline news material stuff, right? That flywheel of Conclave Arcana packs leading into BTC rewards, replenishing itself, doing that revenue share, could be the innovative thing that puts Splinterlands on the map and rekindles like a Web3 kind of bull run here, as other projects then start to take that and build it into their system. So if we want to be a leader and an innovator in 2025 and 2026 specifically in the current cycle, this is how we do it with very little development effort. Because as I already mentioned, we have the ability to transact in the game with things like swap.btc or with USDC. And I hadn't even talked about the bridging that's coming up with Base and the layer 2 level with the validator nodes, which also would be an excellent way for us to onboard new players and distribute rewards that way. So the rails and the foundation of reward sharing and revenue sharing in this fashion is easily doable. Like, from a team perspective, this could be done before the end of the summer, and we can see the benefits of it. It's just basically, are we going to take the risk? Are we going to do something innovative as a DAO and as a community and make Splinterlands really soar? Or are we just going to do the same old things we've always done and see Splinterlands SPS prices continue to bleed and be below a penny? And that's really the question, really, for the community, is do we want to do something that's going to make a difference, or we just want to do more of the same?
Mustaches and explosions. Bam! You just hit it. No, seriously, man. I love the idea, and the way you just laid it out is exactly right. Do we want to take advantage of this run and innovate? And it's not hard to do. It really would not be hard to do. And the marketing, everything that would come from that is I mean, what would be more amazing than saying we're offering Bitcoin as a reward? We have a way to generate the revenue to do that and actually do it. Like that's the self-marketing event of the freaking crypto cycle as far as gaming goes.
That's the key right there, man. Like Blaze wouldn't have to do a thing. He wouldn't even have to lift a finger. But the crypto market, the Web3 space would just go absolutely apey with, holy shit, there's this game that's offering Bitcoin rewards. So what's the next step, Tails? Like, are you planning on taking this to like proposal stage? What's your thinking?
So what I would like to do is I would like to get community talking about this and community buy-in, and then I would like to have get together with Clay and have the DAO put forth a proposal to make this happen. Because I think the team, like I said, can implement this, technically speaking, in fairly short order, given all things considered.
And Hive having wrapped Bitcoin already, that just makes it, you don't even have to transact on the Bitcoin chain to do this.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a quote. I think that sums it up pretty well. And this came from a recent article that was on X coming from the Web3 space. And I think it's very relevant to this conversation. And what that quote said was, and this was talking about Web3 games as a whole, as what's wrong with Web3 and why Web3 hasn't broken through in the current cycle. And they said basically, Quote, so if price doesn't move until belief or sentiment returns, but belief doesn't return until price moves, how do you break the cycle? It's a challenging problem for builders to solve, one that likely requires new models, new framing, different marketing strategies, and rethinking the business model. And that's what we can do with these reward shares, taking basically the Conclave Arcana proceeds and converting that into BTC and funding a reward pool. So anyways, I think the next steps again is community to understand what's being proposed. Again, watch my video on YouTube if you're curious what the proposal might look like at a very high level, and then get it going through as a DAO proposal. Because I think if we do not act currently with something like this, which is both doable and game changing, then we're just going to be like any other Web3 project out there that may or may not survive. And I think that's a waste and a shame.
Yeah. Just a little hidden alpha, I guess, might be. It's not really alpha, but the other night I was just sitting here in my shop doing some work. Noticed there happened to be some people chatting in the old Splinterlands voice chat. So I popped in and started lurking. Blew the air horn real quick just to let everyone know that I was there. And they were talking about land, talking about other stuff. Anyway, long story short, Level Up Life. I'm going to call people out here because it was all just, straight talk there. Level Up Life happened to run into Matt at a Bitcoin event recently. It wasn't a Splinterlands event. It was a Bitcoin event. And he had a meal with him and they were hanging out talking. And he, Level Up Life had the idea of introducing Bitcoin on land a while ago. And he wanted to generate Bitcoin from the, taking a certain amount of fees that were being burned and turn that into Bitcoin instead of burning it. Anyway, Matt liked the idea of introducing Bitcoin into the ecosystem. He did not like the idea of taking it from fees. He was more into the idea of selling something to generate the Bitcoin to give away. Taking it from, the DAO's percentage of pack sales definitely constitutes selling something to generate the Bitcoin revenue. So.
Yeah, and when we talk about the mechanics of what that would look like, Jim, because that's a good point, because people are going to say, well, Tails, like, how do you take the DAO proceeds, which would be in the form of credits or DEC, which the company gives to the DAO and DEC, and how do you convert that to BTC without putting tremendous, sell pressure or downward pressure on DEC? And the way you do that is, again, the only sell pressure that's generated is solely based on the sales of Conclave Arcana packs. So if no Conclave Arcana packs are selling, there's no reward pools being funded. But as soon as you have Conclave Arcana packs that sell, that 50% share comes to the DAO and DEC. If that DEC is then sold for BTC and swapped for DEC to fund the reward pool, that is downward pressure at that particular point in time. But you have to realize once those reward pools get funded and then gets dispersed to the players of Modern, what that does is it creates an incentive for players in Modern to be as competitive as possible to get as much of that BTC reward pool as possible. And how do they do that? Well, the only way you can be competitive in Modern is one of two ways. You either have to buy Rebellion cards off the secondary card market, which would add a demand that doesn't necessarily exist there today. And two, you can buy Conclave Arcana packs for DEC in the store. Now, what that does is it creates a flywheel effect, where as the reward pool gets funded and more rewards go out in the form of BTC, there's more demand for the assets that are the only way to earn that BTC. And the only way to get those assets, again, is through the secondary market of people who have already bought Conclave Arcana packs or to buy new packs. And when they buy new packs with DEC, they buy the DEC that was previously sold for BTC, and it creates the flywheel effect that continues to, one, fund the reward pool and add more players and more leveled cards into the competitive nature of Modern Ranked. So what you have is not only do you have a self-funding reward pool of buying and selling of DEC to fund that pool, but then you have the marketing efforts, as you mentioned, Bjangles, that Blaze just has to basically sit back and say, hey, look at what a great job I'm doing, is because all that marketing happens organically. people start making videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on X, and saying, "Hey, I went into Splinterlands. I made $10 in BTC today," and then a week later they come back, "Hey, that BTC at $10 made in Splinterlands in one day. Well, now it's $20 or whatever." It's that type of event. Because if you remember, in 2021, what happened is there's a lot of conversation around the SPS airdrop and how people can earn in Splinterlands, and how Splinterlands was minting millionaires, and how people were buying DEC and getting SPS. And it was all over the YouTube lands. And that's how I, first came to know about Splinterlands, is from one of those videos. Well, that same type of free marketing can happen with this type of change into our reward pool and revenue sharing for Splinterlands. So I think it's definitely something that we as a community should consider quite heavily and quite with a priority, because I do think it will be a game changer. And no other Web3 project is pursuing something like this, because again, the founders of those Web3 projects don't have an incentive to give back to their communities, because they're not seeing the value of what giving back to the community does.
Yeah, and that sell pressure of DEC, dropping price, that could easily be mitigated by the onboarding of tons of players who creating more demand for DEC.
Yep, and the breed of it is there's no DEC that's minted. Like, it's not inflationary.
Right.
Like, the SPS flywheel creates inflationary DEC that has to be subsequently burned in the game through sinks and stuff.
Yeah.
With this
That's
type,
been our No, go ahead. That's been our biggest problem for years. Is DEC. It's keeping it at peg. It's because our player base has been going down for years. It's finally turning around, but it's been going down for years, and so the demand has been just less and less and less. We bring in tons of a good amount of players who are chasing Bitcoin. Demand goes up, and like I said, it's not being minted anymore.
Right, and there's no inflation of DEC here. It's simply a sell and a buy, which is essentially a swap based on rewards, based on demand. And again, the reward pools don't get funded unless people buy packs, and people don't buy packs unless they're rewards. So again, there's no DEC minted out of nowhere. There's no devaluing of assets. It's just a cycle of swapping rewards for DEC as new players come on and try and build competitive decks.
Tail, so you mentioned that there's no other project that is currently doing this. Is there? I mean, you're across Web3 more than, I think, definitely more than I am, more than I would venture to say, more than the average Splinterlands player or adjacent player. Is there somebody that a project that has historically attempted to incorporate Bitcoin into their?
There are projects that do it with
model?
advertising. So what they'll do is they'll sell advertising. They'll make you like download games and play games and stuff, and then watch ads, and they'll share that ad revenue back, a percentage of that back to the people that are watching the ads and stuff. But straight from a Web3 perspective, again, there has not, to my knowledge, been a project that's gone out there and said, look, we have a business model that works, where 50% of the revenue is enough for us to continue funding the game and keeping the game sustainable, and the other 50% is a revenue share going directly back into the rewards for the community, right? And the loop of doing so is built on the assets of said game. Because again, what most game studios are there to do is make a profit, right? And to reward their investors and their VC funders. No one's going to want to pitch a revenue share model like this, because it's unheard of. Because it's like basically Elon Musk saying, hey, if you buy a Tesla from me, I'll give you 50% back in energy, free energy to fuel your Tesla. That's not how corporate America works, or corporate capitalism works, right? They're there to maximize profits, maximize margins, right? What Splinterlands has shown through the DAO is that it only takes 50% of the sales of the assets in the game to continue the team to continue making the game. So they're not going after 90% margins, right? To make themselves millionaires. And that's what's different about Splinterlands, right? The vision of Splinterlands has always been not necessarily to get rich as the team, but to actually create a game that's fun, and it's about the community in a lot of cases. And I think that's why we've already shown that the DAO can take that 50% and just lock it up and do nothing with it, which benefits absolutely no one, right, at the moment. Or we could do something with it that's actually going to increase the eyes and ears on the game. It's going to increase the asset values. It's going to increase the number of players. Why wouldn't we want to do all of those things? We talk so many times like, hey, we need new players. We need SPS price to go up. We need asset prices to go up. We need marketing. Well, if we need all these things and this accomplishes all those things and more, why aren't we doing it?
It also answers the question of people, there's the concern of what do we do when SPS rewards run out? And there you go. Like literally, part of funding the DAO was to use these funds for future rewards. If we are turning them into rewards in real time, kind of solves that problem.
Yeah, and again, it's not, again, people say, well, now you're just selling tulips, right? You're just selling a Ponzi scheme, which is not the case because, again, we know in Web3, not everyone can be a winner, right? That's
right.
The
and Bitcoin ain't a
secret.
freaking tulip Ponzi. It's freaking Bitcoin, for God's sake.
Right, and it's a variable asset. Like it could certainly go down, right? And the demand for it could go through ups and downs and cycles. But the point here is that when you're doing a reward share like this, like 50% is going back to rewards of, let's say a player puts in $1, 50 cents goes into the reward pool, right? So obviously over time, as people put in their dollars and they only get 50 cents back, if the rewards were equal, right, across everyone, they say, well, we're losing money over time. And that's what nobody talks about in Web3 gaming is the only way Web3 gaming works is if some people are in the game to play for fun, right? Knowing that it's not an investment, knowing that they're not necessarily going to get everything back that they make. But if you play at the most competitive levels in a game and the more you invest, the more likelihood you have to make money in a game. Skill comes into that as well, right? But the point is when you get new players into the game and you get them to play the game, many players will play it just because the game is fun, because Splinterlands is a fun game. And they have things like the Web 2 and the Web 2.5 aspects of the game, right? And maybe they put in over the course of a year, maybe they put in $200 into the game, right? Which is fine. And if they have fun playing the game, just like a mobile game that they're playing, that's a Web 2 mobile game, that they get no value out of it other than entertainment, people are fine to spend $200 or more in a game on your phone and not even say anything about it. So again, you have to realize that, yes, some people will make money in a reward share system like this, probably the highest levels of the game, certainly for sure, but not everyone will. But that's the beauty of Web3 gaming, the keyword being gaming, is there's a game here that the time you're spending here is also about fun, right? So just want to make that clear because people are going to come at me and say, hey, this is not going to work because it's a 50% reward share, not 100% reward share. Well, yeah, obviously, because the team has to fund the continued development. And that's why it's, 50% is a lot better than like 1%. Right. So a lot of games out there in Web3 do less than that in some cases. So
it's certainly an interesting conversation. I wonder if, I mean, it actually touches on a whole bunch of different elements that I think the community is particularly going to be sensitive to. No, number one, it's a huge step. It represents a potential huge step for the DAO, like really taking ownership of its assets and putting them to use. And I agree with the sentiment. I really like the idea. I think I've been fairly vocal in saying I would love to see the DAO put its money to work. And this is such a cool exploration of that concept. And at a more fundamental level, that's a very big decision for the DAO to make. And we've kind of, I wonder if we're at the point in time where the DAO is mature enough to responsibly take on this sort of, very impactful conversation and think long term and think, how do we persevere and how do we help grow the business from the DAO side of
here's the beauty of
this,
Bjangles. The beauty of this is what you've already illustrated with the proposal for survival mode. The beauty of your survival mode proposal is you're just asking for 3 months from the DAO to prove a point. and say, this is going to be successful and we're going to iterate on it and here's how we're going to do it. You provide the path, you provide the time period, you provide the budget, and let the dice, let it fall where they may, right? The beauty of this, right, as a DAO proposal, there's no risk, right? Because remember, if you were to put this in place tomorrow, let's just say we wave a magic wand and we get BTC rewards in a reward pool and it's funded and it starts tomorrow. The DAO could say from now until the end of the year, any Conclave Arcana pack sale funds the reward pool, right? What risk is there to that? You say there's a grand risk of if we do this, there's a risk in the DAO. There's no risk on the DAO. All we're saying is the DAO's already sealed 1.5 million in DEC from the Conclave Arcana sale. We've already made our money back there. All we're saying is between August and December, we try this out. We fund the reward pool, we buy BTC, we reward BTC. All we're losing is any Conclave Arcana 50% shares between now and the end of the year, right? If that is going to break the DAO, if that's a huge risk to the DAO, then there's other problems, right? What are the benefits? What is the potential upside, right? I think that the risk is very, very minimal because, again, if Conclave Arcana doesn't sell, there's no reward pool, there's no risk because it's self-funding, right? So, again, when you say there's a risk, I don't think there is a risk, really. I think there's only upside.
Yeah, but Tails, you got to realize the major stakeholders are not going to see it without being a risk. You know what I mean? Like that's what I'm calling out is
what is the risk as a major stakeholder? Let's say you're a whale that has a lot of the Splinterlands assets. What are you afraid of here?
Well, I mean, we watched the conversation pan out in the TPG Discord.
That's
about
one
this.
individual.
No, I understand, but I mean, I'm just trying to ask the bigger picture question: is the DAO and the DAO as a community, as the group of collective stakeholders, are we mature enough to see this vision and take it on? Because I mean,
I hope we are.
I hope so too. I mean, I think it's worth pursuing, and I love that this conversation is starting to rear its head. And I think, what I was getting at earlier was, we've watched the DAO evolve from, if you scroll back through the litany of proposals that have been made throughout the years, and especially in the early months, and I think as recently as probably 18 months ago, on any given day, we had a ton of proposals, and folks were saying, we need proposals for running proposals, and how do we limit the number of proposals, and we got to make the proposal fee much higher. And yeah, I think we've matured past that for the most part, and I think we're also from a perspective of time, our hand is kind of being forced because like Jimmy called out earlier as an example of these sorts of discussions is, what are we going to do to persevere the DAO's coffers to provide, and ideally in perpetuity, the reward pool for whichever game modes the DAO is responsible for providing said rewards to. Well, that day is fast approaching. We're much closer to that day than we are the team just starting to fund those reward pools. So, I think there's a few variables that are coming into play that kind of speak to what I think would represent the DAO's maturity to very thoughtfully dissect what it is that you're putting out there, Tails. And again, man, I'm here for it. Like I would love to see this conversation bear some fruit, and anything that we can do to put Splinterlands. I think we're all still here because we fundamentally believe that the potential for what Splinterlands can do is in a tier of its own, and I think this is another opportunity to exemplify and run with demonstrating that Splinterlands should be in its own echelon.
Yeah, the rails and the foundation again that Splinterlands has built make this possible. Where other gaming projects don't have the infrastructure and the back end to support this type of thing, we do. And I will just close out the argument here for this idea with simply this question to the audience listening today is, If you wanted to see SPS at 10 cents before the end of the year, which do you think would be the way to get SPS to 10 cents? Stay the course and follow the Splinterlands roadmap as it exists today with Frontier mode and maybe some marketing that happens between now and the end of the year? Is that going to get us to 10 cents SPS? Or is doing a 50% reward share in BTC a path to 10 cent SPS by the end of the year? I think the answer is clear. And I think that's really what we're looking at considering here. There is very little risk and super high upside of acquiring new users, new eyes and ears on this project, and making Splinterlands an innovator in the space. And for us to miss this moment and to pass on it because we can't agree that we want to be successful, I think would be a major miss. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, the ability to make waves, the potential, I should say, to make waves and to be innovative. Again, if that word of that gets out, it's just kind
it's
of
astronomical.
crazy. Yeah. It's insane. And I really want to ask, what is the real risk? I mean, one thing I would mention is, okay, DEC can dip for a little while. Besides that, what's the risk? And I mean, we've seen DEC dip. Shoot, I remember I bought land because I was buying DEC at 0.0039. I bought a bunch of DEC then, and then when it came back up, I got some cheap ass land. And that was before SPS. That was a long time ago. So DEC goes up and down. We're not minting it anymore. Besides a DEC dip, what's the real risk?
And DEC dips are only temporary if you're not minting new DEC.
Yeah,
so again, there's not a risk. Again, the reward pool is funded by pack sales, right? And those pack sales are incentivized to have more pack sales, which chews up buying pressure on DEC because of those reward pools. Again, it's a concept of a flywheel that I don't think the team has really considered, and it should be considered because it is one that I think is quite powerful. So I'll just leave it there. I know we've talked a lot about it. I just think it's an idea that we should have a proposal. We should have conversations with the community about. And if there are whales that have definitive data points and proof of why this wouldn't work, I would love to see it. I hear people say it won't work, it can't work, it'll never work. And then you ask them why, and they say, well, that's just my opinion. Well, show me some data. Show me some modeling. Show me anything.
That's just like your opinion, dude.
Yeah, dude.
To quote the great Lebowski.
The big Lebowski, sir.
Wow, yeah.
I just watched that again recently. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. That movie has transcended cult classic. I feel like every character is so perfectly cast. John Tarantino is one of my all-time favorite characters. Or not Tarantino, Turturro.
Yeah.
The Jesus. Yeah.
Oh, the scene where he's doing the ball shining.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So good, man.
Brilliant. The slow motion, the moving and everything. Oh, it's brilliant. But yeah, it's a good conversation. We talked about it for a while because it merits talking about this for a while. If we could pull this off, I think it could really propel us to exponential new levels.
I agree. I mean, I'm all about it, man. I think Tails, like as you're progressing forward with, your respective conversations, if there's something I could do to help, holler. I don't know how helpful I can be, but whatever I can do. Ultimately, we need to embrace the experimental. I think we need to be innovative. If the pushback is purely an opinion that things won't work because I don't think things like this will work, well, I mean, what's the risk in offering, a timeline where it's from here until the end of the CA sale, or through the end of the year, or whatever that shortened time frame looks like, into trying it, and as it coincides with the advent of Frontier mode and Foundation cards, and you go down the list of supporting new player tools that we are regularly implementing in the game throughout. I expect we've had a very big last few months. We've got probably an even bigger next 6 months. So the things to support these potential new players into coming in and sticking around are there. We've got a sound protected, for the most part, unexploitable system in the game. We know how folks are going to try to exploit it. We have some decent ideas in terms of how do we prevent said exploits. So I feel like the game is in a good position where why not? Let's go for it. So I'm all about it, Tails. I like it, man.
Appreciate
I know how
you.
you can help, dude. Yeah, I like it too. It's a great idea, but I do know how you can help, Jangles. You can go on a mustache strike and grow a mustache until this idea is adopted.
If I had
It's like a reverse hunger
if I
strike.
had good
It
looking
would be like a
facial hair,
reverse hunger strike. That's the whole point, man. You say, I'm going to grow this mustache, make y'all look at it until we freaking try this.
yeah, we'll see.
Do it.
I don't
Do
know
it.
how helpful that would be, considering
It's
we're an
about
audio only
commitment.
podcast.
If you post a picture of it every day and say, here's my mustache, you're going to look at it until we freaking pass this Bitcoin proposal. Bam.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, well, Tails, let's shift gears here. So that's two of your three. I think you've got a third on your list of
Yeah,
items to discuss.
we talked about land cards. We talked about BTC reward share, or again, you could use USDC if people wanted to be less aggressive there. But I think the third thing is this rumor, and it was posted, I think, by the team, the ability for them to have bridging enabled to base layer 2 Ethereum. Sometime it seems soon, which is huge because what it allows us to do is, again, access things like USDC on base layer 2 as a reward, option, for example, or Bitcoin. But the other thing it allows us to do is access Coinbase directly as an on ramp and off ramp for the tokens that we interact with, which is huge. So I think this is something that's not been talked about. I don't know if it's public, or I know it was mentioned in the Splinterlands Discord and it was mentioned on X. So I think the next town hall, hopefully we get an update, or we can ask this question, because the Coinbase base bridge with the validator nodes, while it's not a listing on Coinbase, it's the ability to interact natively on that change through bridging, which would be tremendous for the game, I think, as well.
Yeah, I don't know enough. Obviously, being an expat, I don't think I pay enough attention to that stuff. It's just incredibly difficult, and I've chalked it up as being as much. But I mean, Coinbase is a major player in all of this stuff, and I hope that longer term, the implications of this, bridge taking place and being built and being offered for Splinterlands means greater accessibility for folks like me. But I mean, in the meantime, base being as big of a player in crypto and all the rest as it is, it's got to be nothing but hype on. Clay's been working. Shout out to Clay, man. That guy has been working endlessly on a whole bunch of different fronts, and this is we're just starting to see a lot of this stuff, a whole bunch of this stuff like pop up and get pushed across the line. So
I'm not laughing at Clay. I'll come back to it though.
Tell us, Jimmy, what is it?
Okay, let's go back in time a little while when Clay was running for, throwing out to become the position, the DAO chairman. And when Tails just grilled the living fuck out of him on that after sound stream.
Hey, I mean,
That was awesome. That was
with great,
I don't remember
with great
this.
responsibility, right? So look, hey, and
that was awesome.
I definitely ask Clay hard questions, but the reason for that is because that role is so important, and we're lucky to have Clay in that role, right? But at the same time, there was a lot of questions that that needed to be answered going into that. That was the first paid role for the DAO. And, there was a lot of unknowns at the time. So I think it was responsible for the community to ask those questions. And I just happened to be someone in the community that was asking those questions. And just like with any job, like if you had a company that you were a board member of and you were hiring a CEO or someone of a high level, like a COO or a CIO or a CISO or whatever you want, a CFO, right? If you don't ask those questions, right, you're going to have a problem. You do not want people that have a responsibility and the ability to influence stuff at high levels to be unqualified and unprepared or unmotivated. So it's our again, I will say as a DAO, it's our responsibility to ask those hard questions. It's not mean, it's not spiteful, it's not coming from a place of ill will. It's coming from a place of, hey, we want to make sure you're qualified for this role, because if we put you in this role, it's going to be real hard to get you out of it. And if you do bad things, that's bad for all of us. So.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it was like bad. I just remember at the time it was shocking and like, whoa. Because yes,
I actually don't remember this grilling.
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, there were definitely, hard, tough questions need to be asked for sure.
Yeah,
It
if no
went
one's going to
deep.
ask
It went deep. It went wide. It covered a whole range of topics and stuff. But it was quality entertainment at the time too. I think a lot of people.
I'm here for the entertainment, Jimmy. I'm here for the entertainment. Look, if you guys,
I just wanted to bring that up again.
well, if you guys know me,
it was
look,
hysterical. It was funny. It was amazing. It was amazing.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't pull any punches, Jimmy, as you know this. I will tell you.
I know that.
If something is a bad idea, and I will tell you if something is a good idea, and I'll give you my unfiltered opinion at all times. And that's just
appreciated.
What you get.
That's appreciated. As always, like I said, slam that data down, Jimmy. Bam, lay it on the table.
Explosions.
And mustaches. Exploding mustaches. Could that be a card one day? Is that my summoner?
We got exploding rats.
Well, we've got the exploding dwarf.
I'm the dwarf.
Exploding beards.
That we do. With that used to be the play in Health Equalizer. If you could make that thing work, it was just like bam.
Jimmy, but before we move on from the Coinbase stuff, is that particularly meaningful to how you plan to operate within Splinterlands? Is that something that you've paid much attention to?
Well, I mean, Coinbase is the legitimate like on-off ramp for a lot of stuff. I use crypto.com a lot still. Lately I've been doing some SBS action on crypto.com as well. But yeah, no, Coinbase is basically the legitimate on and off ramp in the United States, as far as I know. Like I said, I got an email a while ago from Binance saying they are reinstating my US account. Or reactivating. There was something they were saying, we're due to changes, regulatory changes, we're reactivating something. But I never really even logged into Binance again but since then. But no, Coinbase is huge. Coinbase is absolutely freaking huge, especially as a United States person for access.
Yeah, and if you're looking at onboarding large amounts of users, doing it through Hive and especially in the US, it's very painful. This provides a more smooth, I wouldn't say seamless, but certainly a smoother way into the game from a Web3 perspective. So,
have either of you guys used what is it, ramp.com? Is that
no?
That's the one that we I think that's, yes, ramp.com. That offers an alternative to, I'm blanking on the name. The one that we used to have that you could use a credit card to directly purchase DEC in game. Transact, that's the one. Have either of you guys used it or to any degree of success?
I have not.
You have not. No.
Nor have I.
Well,
Sorry,
just
Jimmy.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think that kind of proves the point. Everybody's aware, and I'd be surprised if any of us on this call have not used Coinbase in the past. Versus Ramp.com, yes, it might help a fair bit of. I think Royal mentioned, in his particular state, Ramp.com makes things significantly easier, but I haven't heard the kind of widespread
Oh, yeah, he's in New York.
support
He
of
doesn't have
saying,
crypto.com. New
yeah,
York is the one state that still doesn't have, because crypto.com has been, honestly, it's been a freaking godsend for me. Getting into there early and just the access it gives me on so many levels. I mean, geez, just being able to do anything in either direction and literally the ability to just, if I want to spend Bitcoin, if I'm sitting on a Bitcoin right now and I want to spend it, it two taps and I freaking load my Visa debit card on crypto.com and walk into the grocery store. It, it's it's crazy.
hmm,
It's crazy. But yeah, Royal Eagle's in New York and they do not have access to crypto.com, even though the
yeah,
bank that they use is in New York for
yeah,
US account
go
holders.
figure,
It doesn't
man.
make any sense. It makes no sense. So I don't know. Hopefully that changes soon too. But anything that makes it access easier is a big thumbs up from Jimmy here.
I mean, I think that's exactly what Coinbase does. And just purely from a visibility perspective, I mean, I prior
Oh
to
yeah.
Ramp.com being brought to Splinterlands, I had never heard of that tool, whereas Coinbase is pretty much a household name, I would guess.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right, well, gentlemen, we're coming up on the 2 hour mark. Tails, is
All
there
right,
is there
Bo,
anything else?
before we go, well, I'll let you know, Tails, if you have anything else, bring it up, but then I have another question to pose.
I have nothing else. I rest my case.
Okay. Um, so where are you from, Jimmy?
Where am I from?
Where are you from? Because a lot of times,
Well,
we talk to people about personal stuff on here. Part of this is the community getting to know the community, and we didn't really touch that
yeah, well, I can
today.
tell you I live in the Southeast United States.
So
Raging.
like California, for those geographically uninformed.
Yeah, that would
That's
not be
south.
the Southeast. That would be the
That's
Southwest.
southwest. Yeah,
That's hard west.
southeast. How far down? Can you give us like a rough maybe three states to choose from that you might be living in? Like you in Florida,
Like the
Georgia,
furthest
Carolina.
down, the furthest down.
Are you
So
on America's Wang?
Puerto Rico?
Not that far.
Florida, America's Wang, as Homer Simpson so lovingly put it. That's
Indeed.
cool. I lived in Florida for a little while. I was in the Clearwater, Dunedin area for a very brief stint.
Nice. Yeah.
It
It's
was.
it's definitely I will say a little bit warm and humid this time of year in Florida.
That it is.
Can relate
Absolutely.
with that one.
Other question would be, have you ever had a mustache or do you currently?
I'm rocking the beach angles look, so that's what we got going on. So if anyone's seen beach angles, then it's, I guess we'll say that's our style.
Excellent. And would you join him in the reverse mustache
Revolt?
test? Yeah, in order to get the Bitcoin proposal passed?
Well, you would have to just trust me on my post. I just had to post like like anonymous images.
We'll take your word for it. We do realize
Yeah,
you've never shown any video or still photos. No one knows what you look like. You
this
do
is
have that
untrue.
smooth.
This is
You
Oh,
met
untrue.
really?
people in person, right?
Yeah, I've met a lot of folks from Switzerland in person.
Yeah.
Okay. In person though, but you've never thrown up a video representation of yourself online.
This is true. This is true.
Okay, gotcha. So you got to do the in real life personal meet type deal.
Yes,
So as far as I know, you're just known by your smooth and sexy radio voice.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So before we dip out of here, have you guys been listening to the Splinter Vibe stuff? Tails, are you much of a music guy?
I am, yeah. I enjoyed some of the songs from Splinter Vibes. I posted a couple on X. I'm waiting for our good friend Ghostly BG to come up with our video here for our specific featured song on X. I think it was the Warwall Juggernaut.
Ah,
Waiting for that
yes.
music video. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
Well, I did get a request to I guess give an inaugural public listen of some we've got a funky playlist going now on Splinterlands or on Splinter Vibes, and I'm personally a big fan of this song. I'll share it, but I'm gonna try and obscure the name and see if you guys can tell me who you think the song is about. Let's see here. Well, why don't we close out the show with the music? Uh, so any final words? Any final
Well, one more
questions?
question. Tails being
Yeah,
a
bring it
music
on, Jimmy.
guy, what's your favorite band, Tails? Or three favorite bands? I know it's a tough question sometimes.
I it's tough because I listen to a lot of different music, but I would say I'm really probably more of a fan of like trance and EDM music. It's probably my favorite kind of genre. So one that I just started listening to recently that I just kind of discovered coming out of it might have been SoundCloud coming out of Splinter Vibes is Jordan Beats, but that's more of a kind of like trap style. But I also like if you're familiar with EDM, like Griffin is also a style that I like. So yeah, I mean probably not your standard playlist, Jimmy, but
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about here.
yeah.
All of this
What
is
what the hell is
what?
EDM?
What?
What
Get
is
that
this
EDM off my
acronym?
lawn. Get it off my lawn.
Shoot. Well, so the track I do want to play it's house music. But it reminds me a lot of a particular artist from Jimmy's generation. Uh,
Uh-oh.
it reminds me a lot of
80s?
Fleetwood Mac, um, which I think is high praise. It's a good song, but yeah, I wouldn't have pegged you for an electronic guy. Tails, that's a little surprising.
Well, that's just one genre of music I listen to, but yeah.
That was one. What's another? One or
Oh,
two more?
for the I guess for the opposite side of the spectrum, like I've in the past been a fan of ICP, so Insane Clown Posse,
Nice.
Okay.
The
which is
Juggalos. The
Juggalos.
Juggalos.
There you go.
so which is completely off the reservation. But yeah, no, I
Would
listened to it pretty much
Guar be
everything.
included in that type of genre?
Nah, I don't think so.
No, totally different. Okay.
Yeah,
Man, I had one of my
Right
best
on.
friends in high school. He's actually the guy that introduced me to Mary Jane one day, long many moons ago. Was a big was a big juggalo. I could never get into the music, but man, every single day this guy would wear a different. Was it Shaggy Two Dope and what's the other guy's name? Um,
Violent J.
Violent J, yes. A different clown character T-shirt.
It
Um,
just cracks me up more than anything else. I just get a chuckle out of it. So
nice.
you need
All
your
right.
musical comedy from time to time.
Yeah, totally. And how about number three? Let's go in a different direction. I'm sure there's another genre that
Oh, Metallica.
nice. Jimmy, are you a Metallica guy?
They're local boys. I
Yeah, no.
appreciate. I was around the time and Justice for All came out. I became a fan of those guys. So that and earlier was like the big what was popular when I was in high school and such. So yeah, I was way into that. stuff. I still love that album. And
And
Justice for All. I
Justice
think
for All is my
that's
favorite
their
Metallica album.
masterpiece. Yeah,
I agree. It's
it's a
so raw.
masterpiece.
It's like
Oh, and
underproduced
epic.
and
It's
just
got the
rugged.
9 minute songs,
Yeah,
9 minute
totally.
songs and all that stuff. It's badass. That was the height of their raging, I think.
So
I know they're
before
local
I,
boys. They're all from San Francisco. They're all down here.
yeah, but before I moved from Denver, me and a couple buddies went to go catch Metallica at I don't know what the stadium's called now, but old Mile High, and
Oh yeah, that's what I know
the
it
the
as.
show
And then,
got yeah, the football stadium, and the show got, I don't know, about a half hour in, we got one of the famous Denver typhoon, or not typhoons, monsoons,
yeah, the storms that
crazy
just comes
lightning storms.
blasting through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so everything got shut down, stage got cleared out. We were like lightning delays. Of course, it teed Metallica up perfectly for Ride the Lightning to come back on stage with.
Lightning, yeah.
Oh man, it was so
That's
badass,
awesome.
man. Like those guys still got it, man. It
Oh
was a lot
yeah.
of fun. I'm
And
not so
back in
into
the
their
day,
newer
that
stuff, but
yeah,
yeah,
same
that
man.
like
After
4 or 5 album run is just amazing.
yeah, I mean they redefined metal for sure. After the Black Album, that was a whole different thing there. They changed a little bit, got mellow, old, stopped drinking, all that fun stuff. But dude, that storm used to come through at 4 o'clock at like clockwork back in the day when I used to go to shows at Red Rocks when I was living in Colorado in like the 90s. And even before that, like 4 p.m. That was the thunderstorm used to come through. If you were at Red Rocks, that was like what you had to what you were prepared for the four
Take
o'clock
cover.
rainstorm. Yeah, and then it cleared up, went through, and that was it.
My first, so I went to school in Flagstaff, and Denver's not too far of a road trip from there, and I did a couple like late August, early September runs up to Red Rocks for a handful of bands and events, but it wasn't until years later that I went to Denver in April, early April. I was there for my birthday, and that was the first time I experienced legitimately the four seasons in one day. Like I woke up, it was a
Hmm.
beautiful day. By 8 p.m., we were snowed in and all the highways were closed. It was just Denver
Yeah.
is crazy, man. That weather is something else, being right at the foot of the Rockies.
Foot of the Rockies and then the plains to the east, and yeah, all types of crazy weather coming through all the time there.
Yeah.
Fun stuff though. Yeah,
Yeah. Denver's a cool town.
keeps it interesting. Yeah, cool,
Word.
cool. Word
All righty. Well, explosions, googly
and
eyes,
mustaches.
mustaches, the works.
Googly eyes. Got to get a new
Googly eyes.
character on here. If anyone's seen South Park, you guys, you know that? Have you seen that there? The old Jimmy from South Park there is recently got my Paramount Prime subscription up to watch a little South Park just to catch up for a little bit. I saw their last episode was pretty politically motivated, and yeah, it's Jimmy on South Park. Jimmy,
That
Jimmy.
last episode snippet that you sent me, man, is just absolutely bonkers, dude.
Fucking A,
Uh,
man. Free speech. Do we have it or not? Let's find out. Let's find out.
they're
Bam.
pushing the
They
envelope,
got
man.
balls,
I love
man.
it.
They
They
always
do have
have. They
balls.
always have.
Yeah.
Hats off to those guys, man.
Yeah,
They
they
have.
certainly
They've
maintain their
always done
integrity.
it.
Yep.
Yep. Nothing new. They're like, this is what we do, man. And we're doing it again. Bam. Have you seen that?
All right,
Um,
everybody. We'll be back next week. We got another fun episode teed up. Actually, a first time guest, which is something that we have not been able to say for quite some time. We got shout
yeah.
out to our Kiwi buddy Keegs coming on from somewhere remote bush, New Zealand. So tune in for that one. Should be a fun show. He's got some big ideas about the DAO and proposal system and some fun stuff to dig
And that's
into. But
another super sexy radio voice, man. I want to get him into the Splinterlands voiceover community there.
dude, totally, yeah, right on.
Mhm.
Okay,
Cool.
well, we're gonna take it out with some Splinter Vibe funk tales. As always, good hanging out, man. Appreciate you taking the time to come on and shoot the breeze with us a little bit. And I've mentioned to you privately. I'll say it again publicly. I love seeing you fully re-engaged and offering good ideas. I know for a long time it felt like we were kind of slamming our head against the door with, how do we change things for the better? And I feel like we are in a position to finally be heard and make those things happen. And you stuck around for it, and now your ideas can be heard, and we can actually do something about them.
Appreciate it. And I appreciate both of you guys, what you do, taking the time and bringing the community together and giving voice to all the different perspectives here in Splinterlands. So appreciate it.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
everybody.
I second what Django said. I second it. Bam. Yep. Not that it's necessary, but yeah, I agree completely. Thanks for all you do,
Beautiful.
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy. All right, everybody. Thanks
Keep
for
it in.
tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. We'll catch you next week. You have been listening to
The People's Guild.